right, we are now live. Thank you everyone for tuning in and joining this first episode of Candid with myself, Councilwoman Neville. And I cannot begin to tell you how elated I am to have these leading ladies that you see on your screen join us tonight. And they are going to drop some knowledge for all of you and some news that you can use. So first we're going to start, I'm going to introduce Miss Jane Reynolds. She's an attorney and the vice chair of the Prince William County Board of Elections. Thank you for joining us, Jane.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we also have Miss Lillie Jessie. She is an education expert. As an educator, I look up to this lady so much. And she is also the Occoquan representative on the Prince William County School Board. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm thrilled to have the next young lady, as not to age myself, because we all know Miss Neville isn't that old, but one of my former students who I am so proud of, and that is Miss Sakina Blunt. She is a foster care manager and a qualified mental health professional. Thank you for joining us, Sakina.
Thank you.
So, Miss Reynolds, we are going to start with you. How is early voting going in Prince William County?
Early voting is going very well. As of today, I believe we have over 66,473 people that have voted in person at one of their 8 early voting sites, plus another over 40,000 that have voted by mail. And, you know, we expect over 48% of the, this is over, which is 48% of the expected turnout, so.
Wow, those are amazing numbers. Wow. Lillie, Sakina, have you both voted yet? Did you vote early?
I voted early and I did my drive-through. I love the drive-through. I usually work at DMV. I help Mr. Brooks, but we're both have, you know, our medical situations. We're not that we're ill, but I don't get in crowds right now. But I went through that line and it was long, but moved very quickly. I want to vote as early as possible. I think everyone should try to get their vote in early, just in case there's something may happen. That's why I'm out there early.
Yeah, I haven't voted yet. I plan to vote next week. And then I want to volunteer for the polls on the actual election day. So I'm trying to vote next week so that way I can try to volunteer the actual election day. But every time I drive past where we're doing early voting, the lines are crazy.
It's a good scene, isn't it? It's good to
see.
It's great. On television, lines are long too, so.
Now, Sakina, I will tell you, I have served as a election official in the past, and it was a very rewarding experience. And I'm glad you said that here because, you know, Jane is the perfect person to hear you say that because, Jane, can you tell us about the need for election officials?
So we do have a strong need for election officials. And if you do plan on working the polls, there is some training involved. I would encourage you to go to the website to fill out the application, www.pwcvotes.org, and then click on elections and registration, and then click on become an election officer. And it will tell you what you need to do to become an election officer. We have a short amount of time left, and we would encourage you to do so. We would love to have you work in the polls with us. If you're not able to work the polls, then we can probably find something else for you to do in the office on election day, but we would, you know, we would love to have you work in the polls.
Yeah, so what was that website? So I'm gonna try to do it.
What was that website again, Jane?
Sorry, it is, the website is www.pwcvotes.org, then click on elections and registration, and then click on become an election officer.
Okay. All right, Jane, can you tell us more about your role as the vice chair of the Board of Elections? What does that entail?
Yes, okay. So I've been vice chair of the electoral board for the last 5 years. This is a 3-member board with 2 of the members representing the party of the sitting governor. As a member of the board, we do a number of things to include appointment of the general registrar, oversight of all the elections in the county, appointment of officers of elections, making sure they are properly trained and assigned, approval of voting equipments to be used, assistance at the polling places, and so on. So we do quite a bit in the county to help with the elections, to oversee the elections.
That is quite a load. And how would your role, like, what does your role look like, or what is it going to look like November 3rd?
Oh, my very busy on November 3rd. I'll tell you that our day starts at like 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30 in the morning, where we get up and go to the different polling places or precincts to make sure everything is set up properly, make sure that there are no problems so that everyone can open on time when the polls open at 6 a.m. So we're there setting up everything, making sure if there are any problems, we're on call, of course. We have either walkie-talkies or cell phones where the different officers of elections or chief of the precincts are calling in to say, if they have any problems, they calling us to make sure that they can open on time. And I'll tell you that throughout the day, we're visiting the different precincts to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And if they're running out of anything, we're taking them whatever they need and doing whatever they need at that time. So, yeah.
Now, what do citizens, sometimes the information, especially this cycle, it's been a lot of information, a lot of good information, and on social media, a whole lot of bad information. What do citizens need to take with them to the polls?
Wow. So to take with them to the polls, you can actually, you can take your driver's license, you can take a passport, you can take an employee issued photo ID, you can take your student ID issued by any community college or university. You can take your Virginia voter registration card. You can take a copy of your current utility bill or bank statement, government check, paycheck. You can use that. And then, so you can use any of those forms of ID. If you go to the polling place with no form of ID, you will still be able to vote. You can sign an ID statement affirmation affirming your identity, and you'll be able to vote on a regular ballot. If you do not sign the ID statement form, you can still vote with a provisional ballot.
Ms. Reynolds, that was really good. You had all that committed to memory. You are doing your thing, girlfriend, okay?
Yes, there's just some things that I didn't know.
Right. I didn't know students could have their student ID to vote.
They can vote with ID, yes.
Wow. Okay, so there's no reason.
There's no reason why you should not go to the poll and vote.
Okay. So let me see. I have some questions come in that were emailed to me earlier this week. Where can citizens vote in Prince William County between now and the November 3rd?
So between now and November 3rd, there are 3 sites that go up to November 3rd, and that's the elections office in Manassas, Virginia. That's the Haymarket Gainesville Library in Haymarket Gainesville Library, and then that's DMV in Woodbridge. But up until October 31st, they can also vote at the McCourt Administration Building in Woodbridge, the Palazzo Building in Woodbridge, Piney Branch Elementary School in Bristow, Colgan High School in Woodbridge, and Dumfries Town Hall in Dumfries.
Yes, I voted in Dumfries on Tuesday, and it was a very pleasant experience, might I add. And are these locations, are any of them open on Saturdays? I hear that is the caveat for some of these other spaces other than the DMV.
Yes, they are all open on Saturday. Yes.
Awesome. That is awesome. So one question I have received for you, Ms. Reynolds, is when are the votes counted? And I believe with that question, they were really concerned with all the early votes, the mail-in votes. When will those be counted?
So we have already started processing the early votes by scanning them into the machine. However, they won't be counted officially until the day of the elections, but they have already started being processing. As you will, on election day, each precinct or each polling place will do the counting for their locality, and then report in that night, or report in hopefully by 11 p.m. to the Office of Elections, so we can start inputting that information into the various system. But we should start reporting out as early as, or may even start reporting out before 11 p.m. as we update the information into the system. But because voters have until 11 noon on Friday to have their ballots turned into us or postmarked by the day of election, we'll still count those ballots. Those votes will not be finalized until after that day, of course, after Friday at noon.
So if someone has a question, or maybe they found out they were, I was watching Blackish, of course, there's the episode about being purged or anything like that. Who should they call? What should they do? If they have any question, even if something happens election day and they have a question about their vote being counted, who should they call? What should they do?
Elections, they can call that number at 703-792-6470 if they have any concerns about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Reynolds. Sakina, do you have any questions for her? Anything else? You got all your questions answered, so you can volunteer?
Yes, I have all my questions answered. So I'm going to go ahead and I actually live in Fredericksburg. So I'm on their website going to do the to volunteer.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. All right, Miss Jessie. Uh-oh, you're still muted.
I'm back.
All
Okay.
right.
I always like to try to mute myself so I don't bother anyone else. So how you doing? It's good to be here. Good to
I
see
am
you.
good. Better with all of you lovely ladies here. Couldn't be better, right? There's no better place to be.
Boy, you look good, girl.
Thank you. And I love your office. So I think I'll be redecorating mine tomorrow after the Jenny Dean unveiling.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you had a long meeting on Wednesday.
Well, I think the most important thing that's happening in the school system right now is what superintendent and what we call return to learn. One of the teachers group said to me, it's not return to learn because it's return to building, because students are still learning in Prince William County through the virtual model. But the return to learn program is when we return to either a hybrid or a in-person model. Now, just keep, probably most people don't know, we have kids in school right now that are there 4 days a week. And these are special education kids and what we call the vulnerable kids. Vulnerable kids are students that we know need that extra learning, lower income students in those areas, Title I areas, those types of students. So they're already in school. So we're gonna have a calendar of bringing kids back. And so we had 2 meetings on this. The first meeting, we decided that we're going to go with a phased in model. Now, the rationale for that is that we look at the health indicators. So the health department says that Prince William right now is moderate to high. So they recommended that we start with preschool and early learners, primarily because those kids are they're just learning. They're at the beginning of that developmental stage. So we're going to start with them. The superintendent has come up with a model where the pre-K students will go in first, and that will start in November, followed by first grade, followed by second and third grade. And then in January, we will begin to start with 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students. And your 9th graders will also come in at that time. Now, the rationale for this is again, phasing kids in, not having large numbers of students with an adult at one time. You know, when you look at COVID, it's about how many people you're in touch with, how many people are actually in that space. So we have to look at that. And then the 9th graders in January, it's going to be a huge group of kids coming in because you're going to have your 7th graders, your 8th graders, your 9th graders, 11th, 10th, 11th, all the high schools are coming in. High schools, the superintendent had decided to put the high schools on a later time, but we're going to have to start 7:30 because one of the situations with COVID is that you have this distant thing and you also have the number of students that can be in close proximity with an adult. So on a bus, we normally have about 75 kids on a bus. we're going to be reduced to about 20-some kids in many instances on a bus. So what that means, when I was a principal, a bus load would come in and had 60, 65 kids. Well, you can only bring 20-some kids in on a bus. That means, and we don't have a lot of bus drivers, that means we're going to have double runs. So that means that the buses are going to come in, unload one group of kids, go back, unload another group of kids, students, to come into the classroom. Then those little kids, of course, and the older ones, go to breakfast, and then they go to the classroom. The other aspect of this new model will be what we call concurrent learning. Now, what does that mean? That means that teachers are going to have cameras, and they are going to be teaching students in the classroom, and those students who are at home are going to be able to sign into that classroom, and the teacher will be teaching two groups of students at one time. That's gonna, I know, makes me a little nervous. Teachers are a little bit nervous about it. I was online today with other school divisions, and many of them are going with this concurrent model, but you know, they're looking at it a little bit differently because some of them are now doing pilots. We were the first ones really to start with this model, but it gives those students at home an actual classroom to actually be involved in. The other situation I think some parents have asked is at the high school level, because this virus, they're what we call tier 1 individuals. Tier 1 teachers are teachers who have some type of medical situation, and they're going to be given an opportunity to teach virtually. So there's going to be a teacher shortage. So in some high schools, in some classes, they are physically going to be in a building, but they are going to receive online teaching. So that's what's going on with our return to learn. Now, the first part of this, we did the pre-K model and the elementary model. It went well because the superintendent presented and we didn't have a vote. Their parents were concerned that he did not present the middle and high school with a schedule. So this, at the last board meeting, we presented the middle and high school model. The board decided pretty much at the last minute, and you may have heard about me talking about some of this, because at the last minute they wanted to vote, and because there were parents concerned about their kids getting in earlier than we had on our calendar, there was a lot of I would say not controversy, but concern expressed by parents. And so we were there until 1:30 in the morning, but we did uphold and vote to approve the superintendent's plan. So the superintendent's plan pretty much says that in February, elementary, we'll have a K-12 hybrid model. So you can choose to be virtual, or you can choose to have your child in person. Right now, it looks like 60% of the people are going for virtual, 40% are going for this hybrid model. If you choose the virtual model, you cannot change that to a hybrid model, only because it involves more staff. But if you're on a hybrid model and you decide, I'd really rather have my child go to virtual, then you can do that. But everything that we've done has been based on the health plan from the health department and from Teresa Polk, who is our supervisor of nursing. So that's where we are. Any other questions you guys have about that? It's a lot.
That is a lot. And you see, I had to clutch, we're having this candid conversation. I had to clutch my imaginary pearls. Glad I didn't have my pearls on just now, Miss Jessie. Current teaching. Miss Blunt, Miss Neville would not, that's a lot.
It's a lot. And teachers are concerned about a couple of things.
Yes. Yes.
They're concerned about their health and well-being. They are
Right.
afraid. And I've been an advocate for teachers, and I'm not, because one parent said to me, well, what's the priority? I said, the priority, I'm sorry about this. The priority is safety. And
Mhm.
so therefore, when the priority is safety, you have to think about students and you have to think about teachers. I can't just put your child in a classroom when I think it's unsafe. I was a principal for 20 years.
Mm.
And safety was always first. And I always told teachers, parents may forgive you for not teaching the child how to read, but they will never forgive you if you don't keep their kids safe.
Yes.
It's just an unforgivable situation. So for me, it was about safety, having the metrics, the information to make the decision, having everything in place for teachers. For example, the PPE equipment, I'm sorry, the shields, the masks, the social distances in the classroom, all those things, those are variables that we have to put in place. So that was number one for me. And until I felt that was happening, I was not going to vote to send children back into the classroom.
Now, first and foremost, my heart goes out to everyone on the school board, our school board and all school boards around the country, who may be in a similar position to make a public health decision, so you run for office, you're not thinking about, oh, wow, there may be a pandemic and I will be in a position to make a public health. It's a public health decision.
Yeah, and as a principal, I've had a tuberculosis situation in my school, and it affected my school. It didn't affect other schools. And as I've often said, I as a principal, I did fire drills, I did evacuation drills, I did
Active shooter.
Active shooter in the building drills. I had bus evacs, and I did everything, but there is no drill for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so teachers and parents should be, I think, not just fearful, but there should be some concern about safety, because you can't feel it, you can't see it, you don't know that it's present, you can't smell it. When kids have the flu, you can, as a principal, you say, well, we need to get you home. But you can't do any of those things. And at the high school level, a lot of those kids are asymptomatic, which means some of them don't know they have the virus. So they can expose other people. And not only that, the little ones are asymptomatic also. They don't become ill like the other, the older parents and grandparents, but they can transfer the virus. So Thanksgiving is coming. So as a teacher and as a board member and as a principal, you're thinking these kids are going to go home. And are they going to carry a virus home? Are they going to come back with a virus? Because in their family, like my family, who always come to my house for Thanksgiving, they're not coming this year because they're not good mask wearers. So you have family members that just don't follow the rules, and some of them are going to go home to those kind of situations. So, and that the other situation that we have here in Prince William and in the nation, there's an upsurge right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I met with some PTA members at Rockledge, and they said, is the date a steady date? And I said, the date depends on what you see on the ground. My husband's in the military. You respond to what you see on the ground. If the metrics change and we move from moderate high to high, then we may have to adjust. We've had some COVID cases, 50 cases, and maybe 100 kids that have had either been exposed, and we've had to do some quarantining, but we've not reached a point where we've had to close school yet.
Mm. Now, let me ask a few questions just to clarify a few things. So you mentioned the PPE.
Yeah.
So the students, there will be a mandatory mask.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And how will lunchtime go? Will they have lunch in the cafeteria, in their classroom? Will they do the face shields?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that question.
No problem. Because in my mind, I'm very visual.
Yeah, I can tell.
especially with little kids.
Well,
Maybe a face shield.
Dr.
for
Walt
eating.
said he went to a class and some child threw up on the desk while he was there. You haven't lived until you deal with kindergarten kids, because kindergarten kids, they want to do the right thing. They just forget. They just can't do it. High school kids want to not hug their friends, but they want to hug their friends. And lunch is going to be very interesting. Now, some of the teachers are going to have lunch with their kids, because you have to pretty much monitor the movement of kids. So in some situations, in smaller schools, they're going to eat in the cafeteria. If you have larger schools, they're not. At Woodbridge High School, they've set up certain rooms and they set up the cafeteria differently. Students are not going to be able to sit at tables and have those conversations that they used to have. So I think a lot of students want to go back and socialize, but socialization as we know it is not going to happen because of health considerations. So that's going to be a situation. Of course, I mentioned the bus situation, but making sure when they take their masks off, they have to take their mask off to eat. That's just going to happen. So then, but in those elementary rooms and in the cafeteria, they will be distanced. There will be 4 to 6, the 6 feet distance. Now that's going to depend on the number of students in the building and the size of the classrooms. Some classrooms are large enough where you can do 6 foot distance, but some are not. And some are going to have more students than others. So it's going to vary a little bit, but we will stay with the CDC guidelines.
Wow. Okay, it's a Herculean task. If there was ever anything, something to epitomize what a Herculean task is, that is what this is. And I've been telling people all year, because I always read, and I saw this thing coming. I read about it when it was going on in Wuhan, China. And I just tell people the word this year is grace. You know, there's no perfect answer for anything. Everyone's not gonna be happy with things, you know, but we are Americans. We will pivot, we will shift, and we will move forward, because that's what we do. And we have to do everything with grace.
And I have to tell you, I have been privileged to work with some of the best teachers in the world, and the staff at central office. Everybody's been working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours, because the teachers have to learn this new technology, and this, you know, and for learning. The kids that concern me most are the little ones who have had not an opportunity to even go to kindergarten. So they haven't had that first day of school yet. The other group of kids are the kids who are not, the literacy levels are lower. So we know that for every month out of school, a child will lose a month. If the reading levels are not stable, they will lose up to 2 months for every month out. So these kids have been out of school. We're back. How children learn best. The research says that children learn best through interaction. Children learn best from each other, from talking to each other. The English speaking kids who come into our schools, by first grade and second grade, they're speaking fluent English. And they're often the only ones at home because they're learning from each other. Some of that's going to have to be changed. And finally, in a high percentage of learning model, you're not sitting in a chair with someone talking to you. And my analogy to this is that when we go to church, and you guys are African-American, you've been in that Black church, and they say he sure did preach. He sure did preach. And you say, what did he say? They said, well, I don't know, but he sure did preach. So because lecture, talking to people, they only retain about 10%. So when you're forced to stand back and talk to kids all day, the retention is not going to be there. I think on the technological side, I don't think learning is going to be at the highest level, but These kids are not us.
Mhm.
These kids may learn on this platform better than we thought, because I see 3-year-olds and they're managing technology. That's what they do. And so they may learn better, but there's no substitute for interaction with students and teachers.
Mhm. Let's see. I had something else for you. I mean, because it's education during the pandemic. So it sounds like it's going to be with everything, a lot of new norms. Will the school system send out any virtual, maybe virtual events or virtual videos to prepare students for new behaviors when they return to the school building?
There are all kinds of, there are videos for every program. There are videos for buses. There are videos for all of the projects. We have a very good technology staff, so there's going to be a lot. If you want to know, there is a you can answer questions site. If you go to the Prince William County School site, you can get the update on COVID cases, and you can also, the frequently asked questions, you can ask questions. They'll put it on that site and answer any questions that you may have.
All right, I have one more question for you, Miss Jessie.
Okay.
Any tips you can share with parents, especially those parents who are teachers and have little ones, especially little ones who are still learning that basic level of reading, right? So any tips you can share with them to maximize their potential and the success with the virtual learning platform?
Well, with the virtual learning platform, you're going to have to get in there and be present as much as you can. But there are always videos, and you can go back and look at those videos. Now, on Mondays, the teachers have office hours, and you can call them, and that's what you want to do for that. For learning, as a mom, I will tell you that the moment your baby comes out of the womb, you start reading books to that baby.
Yes.
I don't know when my kids learned how to read. They just did. I did, and I'm sure you guys are gonna laugh, because I'm sure you can come up with a book. For me, it was Goodnight Moon. I read Goodnight Moon. I could recite Goodnight Moon. I could read Goodnight Moon without looking at the words. But that type of learning has to take place. And in our African-American community and in our lower income communities, I'm very concerned because the gap is real. I want to also announce tonight, because I think you guys know this, but we are setting up a search team now. We're going to have a new superintendent next year. And that's very important, because for me, I would like to have a superintendent that understands equity, that is going to look at that gap. Dr. Waltz has done a pretty good job, but I've been on that ever since I've been on the board, because there's a 20-point gap. Minority kids, low-income kids, they're not learning at the same pace. There's a gap in access to, I'd like to have someone who's going to work on that gap, access to advanced studies. On SATs, our kids don't perform as well on SATs. We've got a 15 or 20-point gap in their performance on SATs. Our kids can get into some of those Virginia colleges, but at the state level, the SAT level for African Americans, only 24% of African Americans score at a level based on what we consider to be a level where they can make a B or a C the first year. Only 24% of African Americans are there.
Wow.
So, and it's not just Prince William, it is national. So when we look at this election, when we look at Joe Biden and we look at Betsy DeVos and all these people, this gap is real. So I'm hoping that we'll get someone in office that will do that. And finally, if you don't mind, I wanted to let you guys just kind of give you a little historical piece. We have the following schools have been named after African Americans. I was lucky enough to work with Denise McPhail to name Fannie Fitzgerald. You know, Fannie opened the public schools here. So we have Fannie Fitzgerald. That was followed by George Hampton. That was followed by Harper. That was followed Stonewall Jackson, Stonewall Middle have been named for African Americans, the Braxton, Unity Braxton, and Unity Reed. And we have one school, Renee Lacey, I think you guys know about Dr. Lacey. Her name is on the media center. So we're making a great deal of progress in this county, but there's more progress to be made.
Thank you so much, Miss Jessie.
Thank you.
And thank you just for amplifying the importance of reading. And it is important for people. If you're watching this, I just want to add to that. You know, I'm not on Miss Jessie's level yet, but I have been an educator for a while. And your children model what they see. They're always paying attention. If they don't see you reading a book, it's going to be harder for them to read a book. Make sure they catch you reading. And there is no age limit on read aloud.
No.
Read aloud to your children. Let them read aloud to you. Read aloud. It was one of the first things I learned student teaching at Grand Park Middle School many, many moons ago about the importance of read aloud, because there's an assumption it's for the little kids.
No.
Like as the kids get older, they need those basic things, those core values even more. So thank you for amplifying the importance of literacy and reading, because I'm sure that has some effect with those.
I will give you the Read Aloud Handbook by Jim Trelease, Trelese. It's a book that has been the edition of, but every book you can think of, he will tell you the age level, the different genres, fiction versus nonfiction. And the other thing is letting children write, writing lists. Let them, they don't write letters anymore, but they need to write.
Yes, they do.
So literacy includes reading and writing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. So we might need to have a separate education conversation, because I just want to add more to that conversation.
Yes.
You're a good teacher, that's why.
Thank you.
I can tell the way you laugh when you talk about things that people, your eyes are dancing.
Yeah, and then my hands start,
You start teaching.
Miss Blunt.
Yes.
My teacher, way back when. We are not going to say a year, Miss Blunt. We are not going to say a year. But I am so excited to have you with us today. And, she shared a Facebook post not even 2 weeks ago, I don't think it was. And it really caught my attention. And I just want you, maybe we can start right there with you sharing your testimony with us.
So thank you for having me. So in June, the beginning of June, I tested positive for COVID. The result of that was me being hospitalized for about 9 days. So we found out we had COVID. It was about 5 people in my household at the time. My mother has really bad asthma. I know my nephew comes over often. My parents are older. So as soon as I got COVID, I called my mom, or I was getting tested. I called my mother, like, hey, we're testing. I don't know if we have it or not. And so she immediately left out the home and stayed with my grandmother. So we started experiencing symptoms after. We believe we know where we got it from. So I will say this. I know that Thanksgiving is coming up, but where we believe that we got it from was from a family outing. We were outside. It was the one time that we decided not to wear a mask. And the one time, because we normally wear masks everywhere, but where we were at, it was in Central Virginia, Richmond, and everybody wasn't as really big on wearing masks as they are in Northern Virginia. So, you kind of felt pressure, like, okay, well, nobody else is wearing it. So we took it off. And so we came back, and maybe like a couple of days, maybe like 3-4 days, we started getting sick, really bad headaches. And then my fever I kept getting a fever, chills. I had a body ache, couldn't move. And so I just said, let's just go get tested. I don't even want to question, let's just go. So we got tested positive. And then I eventually went to the ER because I wanted to check my lungs. I wanted to make sure. I kept hearing about people being sent home and dying at home. So we went to the hospital, we went to the ER, and I was sent home. They told me that they didn't see anything in my lungs and I was fine. But I remember it was hard for me to breathe. So I was like, well, they sent me home. They gave me an inhaler. I'm okay. And then something just told me, let's just go get a second opinion. So it took me about 2 or 3 days after that. And I went to patient first. And I couldn't make it from the waiting room to the first room without using an inhaler. And so they had told me, we can't even, your oxygen level is just extremely too low. We can't do anything for you. You need to go to the ER right now. So I went to the ER and I was the only one hospitalized. So it was just, you're by yourself. My family did amazing. We did Zoom. They kept saying, are you okay? Is this too much? It was a lot, but it was needed because I wasn't able to be in contact with my husband, with my father, my mom, my nephew, all of my family. So it was a lot. You're just by yourself. It's just you and the nurses. And I remember telling the nurse, I don't know what I got to do, but I'm not dying in this hospital. So, and the nurse was with me. She was like, we're not going to the intensive care either. So I will say the medication that was given to actually Donald Trump, the remdesivir that was utilized, when I took it, it was not approved by the FDA. They told us it was just kind of testing. They wasn't sure. They saw that it helped people with my age and with mild symptoms. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever, get me out of here. So I signed it and I took it every day. It had to go inside of an IV at the same exact time for 5 days. And so the day I was released from the hospital was the last day that I took the medication. I went home and was welcomed by oxygen tanks. So, and even now what people don't talk about is really the after effects. My first question to the doctor was, how do I know I don't have COVID if I don't have to get tested? Because they told me you don't have to get tested to know if you're negative. And they said, well, once your symptoms subside, then you, after I believe 3 days after your symptoms subside, you don't have COVID anymore, or you're deemed clear, is what they said. And then so I said, okay. In the meantime of me being in the hospital, I was diagnosed with pneumonia in both of my lungs as well. So I had to take a variety of tests, make sure I was supposed to have home health aid inside the home to help me with my oxygen and things, but people aren't coming in the homes because of COVID. So you're kind of on your own. And then so I had to keep getting x-rays to make sure my pneumonia was gone. You still are just weak for months. And after I was cleared, 2 weeks after that, my husband and I signed on to buy a house. So it was a lot. The week that I came home, I'm actually getting my master's. So the week that I came home, I still had to do my education. I still had to work on my education. I still came home to work a little bit. My boss was good at letting me off. But after about 3 weeks, I was backed up from my job at the things that I had to do from work. It was just a lot. And so it weighs on you mentally, spiritually, physically, and people don't really know how much it weighs on you for months after. I'm a foster care worker and I'm still finding myself trying to catch up on a lot of things because foster care never stopped, although COVID did. So I'm still trying to catch up on a lot of things, and kids aren't in school. So we have to find resources for the parents who have to work because they're foster parents, or they have to make sure they have enough income to bring it inside the home. So 9 times 10 our foster parents work, so we have to find resources for our kids. So it's just a lot of mental struggle, spiritual. I literally would have to set ask God for forgiveness for questioning, because you start questioning your faith, you start questioning everything. Just kind of like, I don't mean to question, I'm sorry, but I don't know if I'm gonna get through this. And a lot of my prayers was, as long as it doesn't pass to my mom, my nephew, I know they can't handle this. Like, as long as it doesn't pass to them, please let my husband be all right. You have a lot of those just talking to yourself. So mentally, it just takes a toll, just over and over and over again. So, I mean, I share my story because Donald Trump came out and was on this 3-day cure, I'm immune. And I was like, what? If the medication the medication I took by itself was 5 days, and I had to have it in the IV. So, and it was just, so once I heard that, I just felt like everyone should know the story, or what people can go through and how it affects the entire family, and not just, thankfully I'm here, my husband's here, our family didn't get it. We did really well with not spreading it. It was just, we were where we were. So thankfully I'm here. Thank the Lord that, we've gotten through it and we have blessings come out of it, like the home that we bought. So it's just continuing to process through how we're going to get through this whole pandemic.
Wow. When can I ask, what date was it that you noticed you had it in?
So the event that we went to was actually Labor Day weekend, or Memorial Day weekend. I think that was in May. So it was the last weekend in May. And then so I was sick that Wednesday, and so we got tested June 1st. And the test came back, it came back 2 days. It took 2 days to come back. So we got ours it wasn't too long. I've heard people wait a week for their test results to come back, but ours came back within 48 hours.
So what are the side effects? Are you still feeling the effects of it?
Sometimes my chest hurts without even really understanding why. I've gotten cleared. I don't have pneumonia. But as I was reading different researches, some people have to have lung transplants. Some people develop asthma. But for me, the only thing that I just can possibly connect it to is just sometimes my chest hurts. But other than that, I really don't have many symptoms now.
I think that one of the things that's happening in the school with the parents, some were actually vilifying teachers for being afraid and making them feel guilty about their fearfulness. But it like you said, it's my husband and I are, we're senior citizens, so we wear our mask and we don't let a lot of people in our home. And when we go out, we wear our mask, and so we have a shield, and we really take care for it. And what you said about feeling, there's this pressure, there's a peer pressure about masks, because my family, the ones that are not coming for Thanksgiving, they're saying, Aunt Lil, when are you going to come out of the compound? And I see you wearing your mask. And I thought, if I went to their home, they're in Charlotte, North Carolina, I could see myself feeling that peer pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that if you don't pass anything on to people tonight, you need to wear your mask.
Yes.
And
yes.
not be
pressured
into feeling like, oh, you're overly. One parent wrote to me and said, you're making everybody fearful. We need not to pass on fear. And I just said, my job is safety of these kids and teachers. If the teachers are sick, the kids are going to be sick. And someone asked, and I asked this question, which you guys, that what happens to these kids are supposed to wear masks. So I asked the head of the facilities, what happens if a child comes to the bus and he doesn't have a mask, but there's no parent there, but he won't wear his mask?
Right.
See, the problem is that we cannot say you cannot get on this bus. We can't leave him there. So there are going to be all kinds of dilemmas, but this mask wearing and what the president is doing, I'm just appalled.
Yeah, it's just extremely important to have your mask, even if you're my aunt. She will come to every. I mean, we love her. She's our, she's almost like a second mom to me. But every time she comes to our house, my mom's house, or anything, she will have a shield and a mask. And so you can't be scared to do that and be the only person in that home not wearing a mask. You can't be scared to do that, because at the end of the day, it's about your health and it's about the people around you. So, it's important that even during these times in Thanksgiving, if you decide to go out to somebody else's house, definitely wear your mask and still social distance. And if you feel like you can't do that, don't go or try to abide by it. It's hard with family, because you're like, it's family. I love you. I want to be close to you. But, essentially somebody's family has it. Somebody's family member has it, and it could be your family member, so everybody should just remain safe.
Yeah. I think you just have to be vigilant. With my family, they're not people who don't wear masks at all. I'm just saying that some of them don't, and they laugh at me because they think that I'm overly cautious about it. But I don't think you can be overly cautious about this, because this thing is serious. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you,
Ms. Blunt. That was a powerful, real, a very authentic testimony, and I truly appreciate you for sharing that. Sometimes we go through things and we keep them to ourselves, but God loves you, regardless when you ask questions or not,
Yes.
and moves through you to have you share that testimony with everyone who can tune in and listen. And it is a necessary on-time word. So I appreciate you sharing that here and sharing it with your peers so that we all know, Now, I will say this, because we're being candid. I try to match my mask a little bit with what I'm wearing, and there are some times
I'm not surprised.
I will mix match. I got a yellow, it's like flowers, and it's black, and then it's like, here I am wearing red today, and it's like, hey.
You and Nancy Pelosi. You're Nancy Pelosi, right?
Yes, try to get on her level. So, I try to match them up, but if you got to mismatch your mask, if it doesn't match, you got to be safe, because your health is king, okay? So thank you so much, Ms. Blunt. And out of respect for everyone's time, we're going to get ready to wrap up. And let's see. Oh, wait. Ms. Reynolds, did you have another comment to make? I think you're muted.
I was just saying, just in case I didn't make myself clear, we have started pre-processing the ballots. So we do get the absentee ballots in, we do scan them in, we do look for errors, and we do reach out to those voters to cure any errors that they may have made in order to make sure their votes are being counted. What I was saying is that we're not tabulating the results right now, but they are being scanned in and they are being counted. Just the results are not being tabulated.
Awesome, thank you.
May I ask you a question? I've been hearing on television that Republicans are putting out false ballot boxes. Yes. Are we having any of that in Prince William? Have you heard of any of that in Prince William?
I have not heard of that in Prince William County, no.
And today the basketball player, LeBron James, is putting out some social media information on misinformation, because there's so much misinformation being fed to the Black community, and he has a campaign going on that. That guy he is really something else. And Magic Johnson is doing some things also. So I feel so optimistic. I love seeing people vote, especially people who don't vote at all. It just does my heart good just to see the long lines. I love the long lines.
Miss Neville, can I add something? Right before we go, I just want to add, please, 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 mental health is important. Please reach out to somebody if you need help. I know in the pandemic, a lot of people are struggling, whether it's depression, just not being able to connect with other people. Please, please, please reach out to your insurances to find out who takes your insurance for counseling. There is an app, I believe, called Talkspace, where you can look for a counselor on Talkspace virtually, texting, as well as phone calls on Talkspace. That's a really good plug. But please reach out to someone. I know these are hard times. And even if it's a friend or someone you may know that may not know necessarily about mental health, but just reach out to someone to talk. But that's all I wanted to add before we left out.
Thank you for adding that, Ms. Blunt. That was very necessary. So in closing, we're going to go around in the same order we started. And, since we are all members of the D9 sisterhood that Kamala Harris has put on the main stage in these United States, along with our beloved HBCUs, as far as I'm concerned, and I've always felt this way, belonging to a Divine Nine organization and attending an HBCU is a pride and a privilege. And I've always shouted mine out, and I never will stop that. So we're going to go around this circle, and here's 3 things we're going to do. I want each of you to shout out your sorority, your HBCU, and to answer this question, if you had a theme song that spoke for who you are, what would it be and why? A theme song that spoke to, Miss Jessie, you were cracking me up, that spoke to who you are. Or if you have a quote, you can share a quote.
I have a quote.
Okay.
I have a quote.
Start with Miss Reynolds, though, because she went first.
So shout out to my sorority Alpha, Kappa Alpha, of course. Norfolk State University, I am a Spartan. And
Behold!
behold the green and gold, that's
Yes.
right.
Right, little state.
My theme song has always been I Will Survive, Shantae Savage mix, and that's because I've survived so many different things in my life. And so it's just a reminder that whatever I'm going through, I will survive. So
Yes. Good one. Thank you. All right, Miss Jessie.
I'm a Delta. You know I'm a Delta, big time, big time. Went to South Carolina State and was there doing the marches. I marched in Dr. King's marches. Went to jail once, went to prison once, and was with Clyburn, Congressman Clyburn. I love Luther Vandross. He's my favorite. And when I was a principal, I had this little theme, which was love the one you're with. And I guess I thought, I'm not sure if they'll understand this, but see, I have this thing that all kids can learn at high levels. So if any teacher said anything about a kid, I would just say, you're not getting any more kids. You have to love the one you're with. And so they said, don't go to her. Don't complain about this kid not learning. Don't complain about his mother because she's just going to start humming. So I would start humming. I would say, do, 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 do. And they said, okay, Miss Jessie, I'm fine. I can work with him. But I do have a quote. And this is a quote that I have had for ever. And I will send it to anyone because for 20 or 30 years, I read this quote on a daily basis. And it's from Carter G. Woodson. And it says, if you can control how a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his action. If you can make a man feel inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it for himself. You do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. So that's heavy duty stuff because I think that we can't take we can't go through the back door. And sometimes I think we reach a level of status. It's good seeing all of you. You're in powerful positions and it's easy to just look the other way. Thank you.
That quote, please email that to me and I will share it out. That was everything.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Thank you.
Miss Blunt.
Yes, so I attended the Norfolk State University. Okay, so shout out to Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. And I have the song that I wanted to, that I say represents me well, is from Lizzo, of course, because I just love her confidence. So feeling good as hell. That is me, because no matter what, no matter what happens, what goes down, you always, you pick yourself up, dust your shoulders off, you know, flip your hair if you had some, you know, I'm bald now, but you know, and just have fun and just enjoy life. It's short. And so, you know, I felt like that represented me the best.
I am shocked that you said you had COVID, because you're so vibrant and you're a beautiful woman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Isn't she beautiful?
Yeah.
Beautiful spirit.
Thank you.
Cute.
So, you know, I was playing with my phone and messed up a little bit over here. Can y'all hear that?
Yes.
Yes. So a few things. One, I love movement. I love to dance. It's no secret. I've performed as a belly dancer. Yes, ma'am. It's the art form. Sydney loves the arts and the children. And I've been a step coach. I was a step mistress back in school, representing the lovely ladies of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated at Virginia State University. You know, so that song for me is just, no matter what life throws at you, no matter what happens, you better get out there in the rain, you better get out there on the floor, and you better dance. Okay? Mm-hmm. Dance through it, because troubles don't last always. Tomorrow's gonna come. You're gonna be here. So you may as well dance it out. Everything's gonna be all right. So with that stated, I just like to, again, thank you all for joining me for this first episode of Candid with Councilwoman Neville, and being very candid with everyone watching. And I just want to tell everyone tuned in right now, or rather you're watching the video on a replay, stay safe, stay blessed, and continue to be great. Thank you.
You.